gotta say, it's pretty exhausting living through multiple massive historical events, but I mean, we're gonna just cut right to the chase here and bring you up to speed on what happened over the weekend, the effect that it's had on the country, the unhinged reactions and theories that popped up online in the immediate aftermath, the bizarre and still somewhat mysterious story of the shooter, and the fact that we nearly witnessed what could only be described as a cataclysmic shift in US and world history that quite literally came within centimeters of actually happening.
I'm tired of these interesting times.
Former president and current presidential candidate Donald Trump has survived a legitimate assassination attempt by a 20-year-old shooter who was immediately neutralized.
They turned him into Swiss cheese.
By the Secret Service, but only after a complete and utter failure on their part to secure the area where this campaign rally was taking place. It's safe to say that things are going to be real weird for quite a while. But let's get into the most up-to-date details that we have here, and then we'll talk about a few other things, including Trump's VP pick.
So bear with us as we repeat a bit of information that you probably already know, but it'll catch all of us up on how this all played out. So just a few minutes after Donald Trump took the stage at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, shots rang out, and the former president grabbed his ear just before getting covered up by multiple Secret Service agents. The shooter, a 20-year-old local to the area named Thomas Matthew Crooks, had taken an elevated position just a few hundred feet from the stage where Trump was delivering his speech. The shot very narrowly missed, fatally wounding Trump. It instead appeared to graze his ear in the process. Earlier reports indicated that the wounds were the cause of broken glass from a teleprompter based on statements from local police, but currently the consensus is that the bullet actually did graze his ear, as evidenced by an absolutely astonishing photograph from New York Times photographer Doug Mills, where you can see the bullet narrowly missing the president's head. It's obviously, there's motion blur. Yeah. The shutter speed is not tuned for bullets, but that's a fucking bullet flying right past the former president's head.
Now, some of the visualizations of the angle and path of the bullet have alleged to show just how close Trump came to buying the farm. It's one of the ones I saw was like, if he hadn't just moved, like right when that thing went by, it was curtains. So yes, just a turn of his head or a shift in his body might have been what actually saved his life.
In any normal person, this would trigger an absolute existential crisis. But for Trump, it's just like, well,
on to the next one.
On to the next one. Also, he is officially the luckiest man in history.
Yeah, I think so. I think
too many things. I mean, we'll probably get to it, but
even Archduke Franz Ferdinand took a wrong turn after that.
Like, it was this, and then like a week before that, it was the immunity thing, and then a day after this, or 2 days after this, it's the documents case is poof, gone.
Also, I mean, he did get COVID during the height of COVID and survive. You know,
had what appeared to be a pretty bad case of it.
There's maybe he is the main character, but it's absolutely insane, and it's hard to honestly even process just how close the world came to a completely different timeline, especially in the wake of countless incendiary statements made by Christian nationalists and more extreme members of the Republican Party. I mean, just last week we spoke about the rhetoric being thrown into overdrive when Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, which is the foundation behind Project 2025, said that the country is currently in the midst of a second American Revolution, one that will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. With those kind of words leading into what this could have been, we could be living in a nightmare scenario right now.
And I'm sure we'll get to this as well, but all the discussion after this incident about rhetoric, it's like,
oh, it's insane.
Which one of these parties is the one where every single candidate apparently is required by law to have a fucking gun that they fire in any campaign ad they make? Yeah. Fuck off.
So we'll get into the shooter and his motivations in a minute, but one theory is that it may have something to do with accelerationism, which basically means that the people committing or attempting to commit heinous acts are doing so to speed up the downfall of government and society, which leaves a power vacuum waiting to be filled.
Oh, wait, he didn't do it because he hates Donald Trump and he's a big old Antifa lib?
No, he's a registered Republican who has very bizarre political views because, as we'll get to, he did donate $15 to a progressive cause.
I mean, and that's also anyone willing to try to assassinate a current or former president is probably in almost every case gonna have political views that are
inconsistent and bizarre.
yeah, it's not really aligned.
Or they're trying to impress Jodie Foster.
Yeah, that's another thing is like, people like we saw this most recently with Gabby Giffords. And the guy shot her, and there was of course tons of discourse around guns, but it was also like, oh, he must be some hateful Republican. No, he's just absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not clear that that was the motivation, but based on the little we know about politics, it's as good a guess as any.
Yeah, so former President Trump was grazed. He was then covered by Secret Service. The shooter was neutralized by a Secret Service sniper, or maybe two of them. Trump and his detail then got to their feet once the shooter was neutralized, and they escorted the president off the stage and into a waiting vehicle, but not before Trump forced them to stop and allow him to address the crowd with his fist in the air, blood streaming down his face, shouting, "Fight, fight, fight," resulting in photos that absolutely will be in history books, if those still exist in the future. In the days that followed, Trump said the following about the photo. "A lot of people said it's the most iconic photo they've ever seen. They're right, and I didn't die. Usually you have to die to have an iconic photo." Did he actually say that?
Yeah, it was in the post.
Oh my God. So while Trump was being escorted away from the event, the reality of the scene on the ground started to set in. Not only was there a massive lapse in security, but one of the rally attendees was mortally wounded as a result of the shooting. It became an absolute mess immediately after taking place because once the videos and witness testimony hit Twitter, currently known as X, whoo boy, all hell broke loose. While finger pointing, misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, and posts that we are sure people would not enjoy hearing read out loud in a courtroom dominated the platform. All while Musk did a pointless victory lap, claiming that Twitter did more for journalism than mainstream outlets. He also used it as an opportunity to endorse.
Yes, we'll get to that later on, but and yeah, just doing a victory lap with the numbers. Wow, engagement at an all-time high this weekend.
And Linda did a little bit of that this morning as well. Yeah. It all happens on X. So the obvious issue being that major outlets, they typically wait until things are confirmed before they issue articles and reports about what took place. So Musk latched onto the loud noises rang out at Trump rally headlines as proof that his platform is better, as if those major outlets didn't update stories and on-air conversation as details became available very quickly, instead of continuing to feed an already apoplectic user base with an incomprehensible barrage of details that may or may not be true at a time of extremely heightened emotional reactions. And it was like blind luck, but I happened to look over at Twitter like literally the minute this happened. I caught this shit as it was hitting the page. And of course, I immediately go over, I'm like, okay, let's go to fucking Reuters and New York Times. And yeah, at that point, it had been fucking like 2 minutes. So yes, the headlines did say—
loud sounds rang out.
Loud pops, Trump goes to the ground, his ear looked like it was bleeding. That's all we fucking know, because that's all anyone fucking knew.
Anything else would be dangerous to put out there, because it could be inaccurate. Now, the conspiracies from both the left and the right—
oh baby, Blue Anon is, like, in a summer when Blue Anon is really coming into its own, this was their time to really shine.
It was wild. It was endless, with people on the right convinced that this was some sort of Antifa super soldier, and people on the left openly hypothesizing whether or not the entire thing was staged. Well, aside from the conspiracy posting, there were also countless examples of misinformation relating to the shooter and his motivations.
Of course.
Including the standard misidentification of the shooter.
And misgendering of the shooter.
With images of, Sam Hyde, the typical stuff.
That joke is played out. You gotta stop.
And other online personalities being floated as the person behind the attack. One of them was like a European football commentator or something.
Yeah. The only one I liked was that it was Aaron Rupar.
Oh, because he had the alibi. He posted the alibi.
Yeah, the annoying lib that he spends his entire life just live tweeting Trump press conferences. Like right before this one, he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to take the kids to the park.
I'm going to take the day off.
I think I'm going to skip this one.
Yeah.
What did you know?
In addition to all that stuff, most of which we've come to expect during moments like these, there were also just a tidal wave of posts from people that, man, really toe the line of something you might not want read aloud in court.
Yeah.
Might be a few people getting visits in the coming days and weeks with printouts of some posts that they made, much like the now classic internet post where a user claimed to have posted an image of, how should I say this, an unalive vest, saying that that's how they'll be answering the door if the IRS shows up. And then a follow-up tweet with officers standing in the background and the tweet printed out in front of him with the following statement: "This shit does not look good on paper."
Anyway, on the other hand, literal members of the United States government were posting pretty incendiary shit too. Immediately, of course, blaming Joe Biden, Democrats, leftists, and anyone else who doesn't subscribe to their worldview for inciting political violence, despite, the countless recent violent political rhetoric that has come out of their side of the aisle, which has continued to rise since the first Trump presidency. And also, like I said, the fact that every conservative political ad now is them shooting a gun at like a sign that says like taxes or something. But like, yeah, you're kind of,
You
know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, they also, as Judd Legum pointed out in his recent newsletter, they've started blaming legitimate criticism of Trump for this shooting. Here's a sample of what he said. Senator J.D. Vance, more on him later, one of the finalists to be Trump's pick for vice president. Update, Vance was indeed chosen as Trump's VP pick, which we will get to a bit later. Vance said that the Biden campaign was responsible. The central premise of the Biden campaign is that President Donald Trump is an authoritarian fascist who must be stopped at all costs, Vance said. That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. Legum adds that asserting that your opponent must be stopped is standard political rhetoric. Trump does this more aggressively than most, and then lists numerous occasions where members of the Republican Party have done the same, if not worse. And then again, shooter was a registered Republican. We don't know a whole lot beyond that, but there were some local reporting in Pennsylvania, one of which talked about a classroom exercise in high school where, like, all right, everyone stand up, and when I say something, you go to either that side of the room or that side of the room, depending on like what you believe in. And one of his former classmates was like, he was on the conservative side of the room for every single question, sometimes being the only one. Like, he didn't even move from there. There was another article that said all the friends he hung out with in high school were like literal like red hat MAGA kids. So I'm like, I don't know. Sounds like he was just fucking conservative.
Yeah.
I mean, sounds like he wasn't doing this because of the fiery rhetoric of Joe Biden.
I agree with that point. I'm going to hold any kind of speculating on it until there's some kind of actual motive out there. But yes,
Sure.
it's true that...
But everything we know about this kid points to him being a Republican.
That, at the very least, I don't think the rhetoric coming out of the Biden campaign would get him to flip and try to assassinate a former president. So yes, that clears that up. But all of the Republican violent rhetoric over the years has somehow miraculously just been memory hold over the weekend.
Yeah, you don't get to play the stochastic terrorism card.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
By a Republican Party who seems very eager to capitalize on this and somehow claim that they are the party that's now going to bring America together. And it's actually the Democrats who have been advocating violence, which is insane. You're not going to gaslight me into this. This has been happening for years and years.
I mean, they legitimately believe that like blacked up Antifa guys are operatives of the Democratic Party. So it does make sense in their minds.
So Georgia Congressman Mike Collins claimed via tweet that Joe Biden sent the orders and that he should be prosecuted for inciting an assassination. But I'm sorry, you're not going to gaslight us into believing that Trump and the rest of the MAGA Republicans aren't the fucking pinnacle of violent political rhetoric that has only been cranked up further and further in recent years. Also, Republicans are now using this moment to claim that all criminal charges against Donald Trump should be removed.
Well, yeah, if you get shot at and you live, if you're facing any crime charges, they should be removed. I feel like you've served your time. Once you've been shot in the ear.
This is something that Susan Collins would say. I think Mr. Trump has learned his lesson.
This is the day that Donald Trump became president.
Senator Mike Lee of Utah said that Biden should unite the country by convincing federal and state prosecutors to drop all of the charges against Trump. Now, it should be noted that Mike Lee also tried to help Trump overturn the 2020 election, and this is based on text messages between him and other lawmakers, so there's an incentive for him too in this.
Also, president isn't supposed to call up the FBI and judges in different jurisdictions and say, hey,
let him go.
This is what I want you to do.
Yeah. He could pardon him after the fact for federal stuff, but it's just not how it works. Nevertheless, at least one case against Trump has now been dismissed.
Luckiest man in the world.
Since the assassination attempt. And here's NPR.
U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon on Monday dismissed the classified documents case against former President Donald Trump over the manner in which Special Counsel Jack Smith was appointed. The superseding indictment is dismissed because Special Counsel Smith's appointment violates the Appointments Clause of the United States Constitution, wrote Cannon, who was appointed to the bench by the former president. She said the Constitution gives only Congress or the president the authority to appoint a special counsel, not the U.S. Attorney General. Smith had contested this argument, and other federal courts had upheld the constitutionality of special counsels. But Cannon's ruling, even in the likely event of an appeal, adds months to the case. Trump obviously loved this, regardless of whether or not the outcome is substantially affected, and was quoted saying, "As we move forward in uniting our nation after the horrific events on Saturday, this dismissal of the lawless indictment in Florida should be just the first step. The Democrat Justice Department coordinated all of these political attacks, which are an election interference conspiracy against Joe Biden's political opponent, me." So much for that change in tone and rhetoric.
Yeah. We're going to get more into the fallout of what happened over the past couple of days, including just the first day of the Republican National Convention, which basically the only news is that they picked the VP and also, what's his name, the House Speaker, his teleprompter shut off and he just walked away.
Yeah.
Can't talk without the teleprompter. Anyways, we'll get to all of that in a second, but awkwardly, this episode is sponsored, and we're just going to be honest here. Yeah, it is out of place and bizarre amongst this news, but this is like the one time we've been sponsored.
Hey man,
recently.
no matter what's going on in the world,
there's always time for sponsors.
Always time to get in a good close shave.
Yeah, we want to keep our own heads above water here, so give us a little break and check out our sponsor, Henson Shaving. Now, I haven't shaved in a day or two because I have not been mentally prepared to do anything after everything that's happened this weekend.
Yeah.
But once I get a good night's sleep, I am gonna clean up this dust with my favorite shaver by Henson. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that has made parts for the International Space Station and Mars rover, and now they are bringing precision engineering to your shaving experience. Razor blades are like diving boards. The longer the board, the more wobble. The more wobble, the more nicks, cuts, and scrapes. A bad shave isn't a blade problem, it's an extension problem. By using aerospace-grade CNC machines, Henson makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches, which is less than the thickness of a human hair. That means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave.
But wait, it gets better. The razor has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream, which makes clogging virtually impossible. Seriously. Henson Shaving wants the best razor, not the best razor business, and that means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades, and no planned obsolescence. The Henson razor works with standard dual-edged blades to give you that old-school shave with the benefits of new-school tech. Once you own a Henson razor, it's only about $3 to $5 per year to replace the blades. Honestly, we love this razor, mainly because it's infinitely reusable, it gets the job done extremely well, and you're not contributing to more plastic pollution in the process. Also, the handle has a good weight to it, it's ridiculously cheap to refill over time, and it's got that old school cool factor to it.
Yeah, it's time to say no to subscriptions and yes to a razor that'll last you a lifetime. Visit hensonshaving.com/ITdaily to pick the razor for you and use code ITdaily and you'll get 2 years worth of blades for free with your razor. Just make sure you add them to your cart. That is 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/ITdaily and use our code ITdaily. Check them out if you're looking for a good shave.
All right. Now, again, apologies for that, but you know how it is. Back into the bullshit. Let's go.
Whoop.
And we're going to focus next on the gunman and the complete mystery that still surrounds him based on interviews with family members, former classmates, coworkers, and more. So Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was 20, seems to have been kind of just all over the place politically. He's in all four corners of the political alignments map. He was a registered Republican, but as others are quick to point out, he did indeed appear to make a $15 donation to a progressive fundraising group a few years back as well.
Yeah, we already spoke about that, but
He apparently didn't show any major red flags to those around him. He did appear to love guns based on some merchandise that he owned from a gun-centric YouTube channel, which he was wearing during the shooting.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was an active member of a local shooting range, and the gun he used was an AR-15 style rifle that belonged to his dad. Also, apparently, he joined the gun club in high school. Yes, in America, some high schools have gun clubs.
I had one in my high school.
And they kicked him out because he's apparently was such a bad shot that they were worried that he was a danger to everyone else in the club. Yeah, of course you had one in your Florida high school.
That's right.
We didn't have one here. Anyway, here's the New York Times with a bit more information. Though, like we said, it's pretty sparse. It's a little frustrating because there currently doesn't seem to be an abundantly clear motive. We've gotten so used to these freaks leaving behind
manifestos?
a giant thick manifesto, and this guy doesn't seem to have left behind any obvious
He didn't really have a
indications.
presence online, as far as they say, other than a Discord account, which they've.
And they're like, yeah, he just talked about like video games.
He didn't talk about like anything political. It's
It's very strange. Yeah. So hopefully we learn more. Hopefully the more they dig into this, we can get a better idea of what the hell this was all about. But here's the New York Times.
In an era when other people his age put troves of personal information online, Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20, left few clues about who he was, what he believed, or why he decided to drive to a Trump rally in western Pennsylvania on Saturday and try to assassinate the former president. Federal authorities said he had no apparent history of mental health issues or previous threats and had not been on the radar of federal law enforcement. Investigators were scouring his online presence and working to gain access to his phone, but so far had not found indications of strongly held political beliefs. In fact, the clues he left behind were confusing. He was a registered Republican, but had also donated to a progressive cause in 2021. His parents were registered as a Democrat and a Libertarian. Weird household. The report goes on to say that he had recently graduated from community college, worked at a nursing home where he, quote, performed his job without concern, and liked to play chess and video games while learning how to code. And reminder, it's 2024, every person plays video games. So that bit of info, essentially pointless, although we are sure that it might turn into an issue at some point as people continue to try to vilify anyone who plays video games.
Well, the only other option is, taking a critical look at how easy it is for a 20-year-old to obtain a high-powered rifle.
That's a problem that needs to get put on the back burner once again.
Yeah,
now is not the time to talk about gun control.
Not the guns, video games!
Definitely the video games.
He was a gamer. Another degenerate gamer.
So the report also adds that former classmates of his, they said that they hadn't noticed any obvious warning signs, but described him as incredibly intelligent with political views that seemed slightly right-leaning. That was with an interview with the New York Times. So.
Okay, well, according to some of my sources, which I will send for the edit. But,
okay.
I don't know. Who's to say? These are all just random people remembering a guy
from 4 years ago.
From 4 years ago that
2 years ago,
doesn't seem like he was especially social. So that's interesting. But let's instead focus on the glaring holes left open by the Secret Service that allowed a gunman to get close enough to take a shot at the president from an elevated position, like a little over a football field away.
Yeah.
So based on eyewitness testimony that has been corroborated by video footage from the event, as well as amateur video filmed by those in attendance, there appears to have been a significant amount of time between when the shooter was spotted by attendees and when he was able to fire off a shot.
So yeah, one of the best first-hand witness statements was a video interview conducted by BBC News with someone who witnessed the shooter and tried to warn law enforcement.
He was wearing
a Trump hat with some
hair,
crazy hair.
That wasn't his hair. The hair was built into the hat.
Mm-hmm. Based on his statements and the video that's circulated online, his story lines up very well with how things played out. And we're going to try to just play the video of the interview, but if not, here is what he said.
So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle, absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. We're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. He's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal. And yeah, there's video
where they time up like,
hey, that's a guy up on the roof. Hey, I think he's got a gun. And yeah,
and they've timed it up to where Trump was in his speech, so you can see the actual timeline of when they're spotting
hear
the guy.
Trump.
That's what I'm saying. That's how they know what the timeline was.
Anyway, that guy later went on to say that the shooter was up there for at least a few minutes, which again is corroborated by the rest of the footage that's been circulating, which is obviously insane. It is crazy that a shooter was able to reportedly climb a ladder to get on top of a roof within a few hundred feet of a former president and current presidential candidate. And then not only do that, but be able to get into position, line up a shot, and actually get shots off before the Secret Service was able to intervene. Mm-hmm. And this has already resulted in calls from both sides of the aisle to launch probes into this massive security failure. But then again, if you've spent any time at all on Twitter the past few days, you'll see that a bunch of right-wing folks, they've started just blaming the failures of the Secret Service, not on what actually happened here, but on DEI. Because, one, maybe two of the officers protecting Trump on that day was a woman. With no motive available to fit a narrative about the shooter, this is what they got. They've got to project some weird insecurities or conspiracies somewhere.
So they're choosing DEI and the Secret Service.
So they're saying that the Secret Service has gone woke because there's female agents.
Yeah.
They probably just got hired because they're female. This is absurd, obviously. She wasn't part of the sniper team who were positioned in other areas and specifically on the lookout for stuff like this. She literally jumped onto the former president to protect him and ushered to take him away. Imagine almost taking a fucking bullet for Donald Trump and then people say that you're a
lot
DEI
cooler if you
hire.
were a man.
Yeah.
So.
Bizarre posts from some deranged folks, as per usual. Once again, the BBC asks some important questions relating to the way that the Secret Service handled the event.
Why was the gunman's roof not secured in advance? The rooftop was a known vulnerability before the event, according to NBC News, which cited two sources familiar with Secret Service operations. Quote, someone should have been on the roof or securing the building so no one could get on the roof, NBC quoted one of the sources saying. As well as the access question, it has been suggested that the line of sight from the rooftop to Trump's podium area should have been blocked off. Crooks should not have been able to get a direct sight of Trump, Homeland Secretary Security Alejandro Mayorkas told ABC News on Monday.
Were warnings about the gunman passed on? Well, the county sheriff has confirmed that Crooks was spotted by a local police officer who was unable to stop him in time. Something that remains unclear is whether this information reached the agents around Trump. Crooks was already on officials' radar, according to a senior law enforcement official. They anonymously told CNN that officers thought he was acting suspiciously near the event magnetometers. This information was allegedly relayed to the Secret Service.
So confusing because before it's like, he wasn't on anyone's radar. This specifically relates to the day of the shooting. He showed up, was acting weird, and they're like, hey, keep an eye on this guy. And then they didn't. They didn't keep an eye on that guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Another thing about these campaign stops is it's not just Secret Service. They got the local sheriff's department, they got the police department. So there's multiple jurisdictions working together. And that
sometimes that doesn't work very well.
That creates some holes sometimes. So it's like a cop saw him up there, and but is that cop on the same fucking frequencies?
Probably not.
Yeah, no, it probably is a little harder than just being like, hey, guy in charge of snipers.
Yes.
So there's that. But just in general, it's like, basic fucking security. You go up on stage to exactly where Trump's gonna be standing, and you say,
look around.
Okay, I can see that roof there, which means that roof can see me.
Yeah.
I can see, something went horribly wrong here. It's like someone was supposed to do it and they thought someone else was going to do it. I don't know. It's very strange.
Someone dropped the ball and a fucking president almost died.
Yeah. But this also lines up with a lot of other things we've heard about the Secret Service over the last couple of years, which is that maybe not as reliable as you would hope.
Not really living up to the standards of previous administration's Secret Service. I think it's like the Obama administration was the first one where people were like, I think the Secret Service agents are partying down in Mexico.
Yeah. You grow up thinking of these guys as like elite, like Agent Smith type characters, and no, they're just people.
And and a lot of them are, but it's like, someone only needs to be lucky once. And fortunately for Mr. Trump, this guy was not fully lucky, but goddamn, did he fucking exploit a loophole or something that wasn't a loose end in that
Trump is the
setup.
luckiest person alive, but this shooter is like, aside from being dead,
up
till that point, pretty lucky himself.
Yeah, it's insane that he was able to get on that roof.
He was probably surprised that he's like, wait, how the fuck am I already up on this roof? Because I feel, I mean, it makes you wonder, like, how many other sort of like stops for presidents or former presidents does someone show up like with a gun, and being like,
can't believe this. Yeah.
and they
All
look
right,
around
bye.
and they're like, okay, well, there's no fucking way I'm getting in there, so
Yeah.
I guess they'll just drive home. Anyway, they also dug into whether or not the event had proper security resources, whether they were too reliant on local police, and how the communication or lack thereof played out, all the way down to whether or not Trump was rushed off stage quickly enough.
Yeah, in an interview with ABC News, Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas, the director of the Secret Service, called the shooting unacceptable.
Oh, good.
And said that it's something that shouldn't happen again.
I agree.
As the head of the agency, Cheadle said it's her responsibility to investigate what went wrong and make sure nothing like it can happen again. The buck stops with me, she said.
She said, oh my God, how deep does this DEI go?
I am the director of the Secret Service, and I need to make sure that we are performing a review and that we are giving resources to our personnel as necessary. Cheadle responded to reports that the suspect was seen and identified as potentially suspicious before he opened fire, saying that a very short period of time passed between then and the shooting.
Well, that's all it fucking took.
Yeah, and all of this just obviously drives any number of conspiracy theories even further.
Yeah. I will say one thing that did make me weirdly suspicious, like right as this happened, was before I understood fully, is that when Trump goes down, and like he gets up pretty much immediately, which is like, I'm like, why would they let him do that? You come to find out later, they were all on comms being like, shooter's neutralized.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, if I'm getting shot at up on stage, like I'm not getting up immediately and making myself a target again.
No,
So people were pointing that out, but
you could hear it picked up on the mic on the
you
podium.
can hear it in the audio if you turn up the volume a bunch. But that by that point, the shooter had been neutralized. Anyway, how can we make this a little more lighthearted?
Yeah, let's. It's been a pretty depressing
Is that
weekend
an
and
impossible
episode.
task?
Yeah.
Well, let's have a look at some tweets. And yeah, it was kind of tough to whittle down a few that are somewhat harmlessly funny without amplifying stuff that clearly crosses a line. I don't want to get arrested or talk to any cops. But here are a few that we saw. Now, this one was from a Mario fan account who tweeted the night before, "Good night, paisanos. Mario's got a little something set up for tomorrow, so look out for that." Mario. And that was immediately followed with the assassination attempt on Trump. And the account was forced to clarify, "That was not what I meant."
At least they gave everyone an update. So
Thank you, Mario. I believed in you.
yeah. Then there was Pepito, the cat that has a motion-activated webcam that catches him coming through his little door when he decides to leave and go outside and then come back. People love checking in on Pepito.
Yeah, I love seeing when Pepito is home.
Yeah. The cat's owner even put up a cute little LED screen that shows off messages from people around the world so that Pepito can read those messages when he gets back from a long day of chasing mice or whatever. Well, screenshotted on July 13th was Pepito returning from home from an outing, only to find the following message greeting him on his digital wall. "Pepito, they shot Trump!" This is how he found out.
Well, Pepito wasn't home. Where was Pepito?
Where was Pepito?
And what did he know? Also, legendary poster Soul Nate later exclaimed, "As a Democrat, I am so sorry a Republican shot another Republican with a gun we tried to ban. Please feel free to choose a card from my wallet and punch me in the mouth."
And Variety posted some unintentionally funny news when they announced the following. Jason Aldean dedicates "Try That in a Small Town" to former President Trump after assassination attempt. Now, obviously, as everyone online immediately pointed out, the shooter did, in fact, try that in a small town.
Yeah.
And his target was a dude from the big city. And also, he ended up missing, but, he tried it in a small town.
He did try it in a small town. You got to give
And
him that.
he at the very least, pulled the trigger. It's crazy. Also, just bizarre, especially since Jason Aldean was himself nearly killed on stage amidst the Las Vegas massacre a few years back. Another, this one was a mass shooting, but with a motivation that is still unknown.
Yeah, the best they can come up with is he was just mad at the casinos.
Yeah.
And bored.
I guess so.
We'll probably never know. Obviously, there's a ton of conspiracy theories around that one, most of which are just dumb.
Yeah.
But there's a few that are kind of interesting. Anyway, then there was, my God, Sticker Mule, which I guess is a custom sticker printing company who also makes a hot sauce. what could they have to possibly say about an event such as this? They are a sticker company. All their job is selling stickers and hot sauce.
And hot sauce. They could have been like, hey, things are really rough out there right now. Why not cook up some wings and slather them in our delicious hot sauce?
You are a sticker company. You actually don't have to say anything.
Take the weekend off.
So Sticker Mule, without waiting for literally any information about the shooting, immediately fired off an email and social media post about the incident, performing one of the wildest unforced errors we've seen in at least the past few weeks. The memo made its rounds on social media and was widely mocked. Here's what it said. Hi, Donald Trump was shot. I don't care what your political views are, but the hate for Trump and his supporters has gone too far. People are terrified to admit they support Trump. I've been scared myself. Americans shouldn't live in fear. I support Trump. Many at Sticker Mule do. Many at Sticker Mule also support Biden. The political hate needs to stop. Hopefully this email helps. By the way, get one shirt for $4 here. I suggest buying one that shows you support Trump.
But that random sticker / hot sauce company wasn't the only one to come out.
Apparently, like a huge portion of their customer base is like furries.
Yeah.
And like people who sell stuff at like Artist Alley and shit.
There was already a complete artist recreation of the scene with him with his fist up in the air, where everyone in it is a furry. Okay. And there was like a furry interpretation of what happened above that tweet.
Interpretation?
Yeah. So that random sticker / hot sauce company wasn't the only one to come out in support of Trump from the shadows. I mean, we've known this for a while just based on optics, but Elon finally did away with any subtlety and officially endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Oh my God, I'm shocked that the guy most likely to support Donald Trump supports Donald Trump.
He said in a tweet, I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery. And taking things even further, Elon Musk has claimed that he will commit around $45 million a month to a new pro-Trump super PAC, according to the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, it seems like his political motivations are clear now, but...
Didn't he literally say, like, when he bought Twitter that he was going to be, like, ideologically fair and agnostic, and it'd be all about both sides?
Well, he's seen enough.
Yeah, I guess
Anyways,
so.
We are running out of daylight here. So first of all, there's definitely a ton of stuff that we missed from this story as it's played out over the past few days, but it's just very hard to wrap this whole thing up in a really nice package, especially because there are just so many unanswered questions still. And we're all still living in the aftermath of what that might mean for the country's political future.
I will say, as of right now, it sounds like the polling has not changed at all, which at the time, as soon as this happened, people were like, oh, fuck, this means Trump's going to win, which I think was like a pretty solid prediction, because obviously sympathy, when people try to shoot you, people are just naturally sympathetic to people who are you would think the victims of gunshots.
You would think or assume at the very least that Republicans who were on the fence previously would have had a bigger shift.
But that's just the thing, though. There were no Republicans on the fence.
Yeah, that's true.
Barely anyone.
The polling has not moved.
Barely anyone is on the fence.
And the polling hasn't moved as far as we saw before filming this after the announcement of J.D. Vance being his running mate.
Yeah.
It hasn't really affected
But it's just insane to see a poll they're like, okay, now that President Trump has been shot, how do you feel? And they're like, we feel exactly the same as we felt before.
Yeah.
The numbers are still the same. Obviously, Biden is still losing. But it is not what I would have expected to see. Just like 90% of this country, at least, knows exactly who they're going to vote for today.
It's a good excuse for Biden to cancel the next debate, though.
It's a good excuse for Biden to drop out and let someone else run in his place.
Yeah. Oh, in the meantime, here's the latest from the campaign, and obviously the biggest news from the Republican National Convention and just the Trump campaign is that, they finally selected a nominee for vice president, and it is none other than author and Senator J.D. Vance.
Who is younger than you.
Damn.
He is 39.
Damn. Yeah. He went from being a hardcore never-Trumper to literally just licking the former president's boots.
Clean.
Yeah.
Cleaning him off. Yeah. Give him a good spit shine.
Now, to show how far he's come, here's J.D. Vance in a campaign ad just a few short years ago.
J.D. Vance, in his own words.
I'm a never Trump guy.
I never liked him. As somebody who doesn't like Trump, I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. I didn't vote for Trump because I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious, him being really outrageous and offensive.
On Twitter, Vance called Trump, quote, reprehensible, an idiot.
And as far as everything else that you would care about with this guy, I mean, he's anti-abortion. He thinks Biden hasn't gone far enough with support for Israel. He doesn't want the U.S. sending aid to Ukraine. He wants to do away with divorce entirely, even in the case of domestic violence. And he's also a climate denier. And he's also like an adult Catholic convert, which is strange.
That is like one of the biggest, brightest red flags a person can have. I say this as someone who grew up in the Catholic Church. If you're converting to that shit as an adult, stay the hell away. Catholicism is a religion you're either born into or not. If you're choosing to be Catholic, you are a weird little freak. And there's no denying it.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a bunch of other weird shit with this guy, but we will have to, we'll have more and more of it will come out in the next few months.
Yeah.
He literally compared Trump to Hitler at one point.
Yeah.
So he's really come around, hat in hand. Mm-hmm. But he's a weird little freak. People were saying, like, it is funny in a sad way that for months it's been like, oh, Trump's gonna pick like a woman, a black man, a Latino.
Nope.
To try to get just any sort of like expanded appeal. Mm-hmm. And in the end, he goes with a Midwestern white guy.
Yeah.
Also with a beard, which, listen, as a beard haver myself, I would never run for office looking like this because it's cursed.
Imagine if they made him shave that beard. Trump would drop him if it was the day before the election.
Well, that's the thing. J.D. Vance, he's got the same kind of beard Ted Cruz has. It's the fat guy beard.
Yeah.
You take that thing off, looks like a big wet baby.
Yeah.
Gotta have the beard.
Meanwhile, Tim Scott, marriage in shambles, I'm sure.
Yeah, this was what everything
He was
was
doing
leading
all
to.
of this for Trump.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, so a lot of the commentaries is like, yeah, the Trump campaign must feel really confident that the base that they have is all that they need because J.D. Vance is...
He adds nothing to the
adds
campaign.
no appeal. In fact, I would say in a lot of ways adds negative appeal because as we said, and as we will see in the next couple of months, he's a weird little freak. He's a Peter Thiel guy. Mm-hmm. It's like, remember Blake Masters? That guy lost, like, he got his ass kicked in Arizona because he's a weird little freak.
I was under the impression that because of everything that happened this weekend and their weird, like, hey, let's, you know what, we're going to be the party that unites the country finally. I thought that he would pick Nikki Haley.
No fucking way. The man holds too many grudges.
Yeah.
Nikki, I mean, with J.D. Vance, I'm sure Vance literally crawled on the ground to him and licked his feet. Nikki Haley's not going to do that.
I was just going to say there has to be like some... There's probably some, like...
Trump took, like, Polaroids of J.D. Vance fucking a pig and just keeps them in a safe.
There's probably something he enjoys about flipping someone who used to hate him into someone who grovels at his feet.
No, he loves it.
Yeah.
He loves it. That's the same with, like, Elon.
Anyways, we're already drained from this weekend and this episode. It really sucks living in interesting times, but at least we're all here together, I guess. Come on, give us a big hug. That's right.
Yeah, hug the computer. Hug the phone.
We'll take care of you. So there you go. I will be back very soon with some tech news and probably a bunch of updates on all of this very soon. But in the meantime, if you want to see what life was like before an assassination attempt, our most recent videos are going to be popping up in a second. There they go, somewhere over there. But please, if you can, like the video. I'm sure there's lots to talk about, so but keep it civil down in the comment section below. But
the FBI is reading.
Probably just assume that is always happening.
Yeah.
And then if you're not already, subscribe to the channel, hit the join button, and we'll see you soon for something else.
Bye-bye.